Please like and subscribe to the channel if you find this video interesting and useful. Give me more ideas you want me to make. Enjoy watching the video. The humid night air of the city clung to Jake like a second skin as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. His movements were fluid, silent, a predatory dance honed by years of practice. Tonight's target, the enigmatic Mask of Ethelgard, a relic newly acquired by the museum, rumored to possess strange powers. Jake scoffed at such superstitions. For him, it was merely an exceptionally rare artifact with an even more exceptional price tag on the black market. Besides, the hefty sum it would fetch was desperately needed. Lily, his younger sister, was barely clinging to life in a sterile hospital room, her medical bills a mountainous testament to a failing healthcare system. Jake wasn't just a thief. He was a resourceful, morally flexible provider, a shadow dweller who operated by his own code, never harm the innocent, and only steal from those who wouldn't truly miss it. This museum, with its endless endowments, certainly wouldn't collapse from one missing mask. He moved with practiced ease, disarming laser grids with a flick of his wrist, bypassing pressure plates with feather-light steps, his custom-built gadgets whirring almost imperceptibly. His mind, sharp as a diamond, processed blueprints and security camera feeds simultaneously, calculating every angle, every potential risk. He was in his element, a digital phantom weaving through the physical world. Tonight felt routine, almost mundane, despite the millions resting on his success. Suddenly, a flicker on his wrist-mounted scanner. An anomaly. Not a guard, but a rapid, deliberate approach. Female. Professional. His blood, usually cool under pressure, quickened. This wasn't standard museum security. Before he could react, the heavy oak door to the exhibit hall burst open with a resounding thud. Freeze. Police. The voice was crisp, authoritative, cutting through the silence like a scalpel. Standing framed in the doorway, silhouetted against the emergency lights, was Detective Olivia Ramirez. Even in the low light, Jake could tell she was formidable. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, revealing sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. Her stance was aggressive, her service weapon held steady, aimed squarely at his chest. Olivia was an unyielding force, a rising star in the precinct known for her relentless pursuit of justice and her uncanny ability to anticipate a criminal's next move. She had a personal vendetta against the Shadow Syndicate, the very organization that had almost claimed her former partner's life, and she suspected this artifact might be linked to their burgeoning illicit trade in antiquities. Jake, caught mid-reach for the mask, assessed the situation in a fraction of a second. Running was his best option. He knew her reputation. She wouldn't hesitate. "Lady, you really don't want to get involved," he muttered, already calculating an escape route through a ventilation shaft he'd spotted earlier. Olivia didn't flinch. "Drop the mask now. You're under arrest, Shadow Fox. She knew his street name, a chilling detail. She'd been tracking him for months, convinced he was somehow connected to the syndicate's lower echelons, unaware of his true motivations. A cat-and-mouse chase ensued, a frantic ballet of pursuit and evasion through the hallowed halls of art and history. Jake, nimble and quick, vaulted over velvet ropes and display cases, Olivia hot on his heels, her every move efficient and determined. The air crackled with adrenaline. Glass display cases vibrated as they brushed past, ancient tapestries swayed from the sudden drafts. Jake was a whisper in the wind, Olivia a storm chasing after him. They burst into a grand rotunda, the moonlight streaming through the domed skylight illuminating their desperate struggle. The Mask of Ethelgard, perched on a lone pedestal at the center, seemed to glow faintly in the ethereal light. Its surface, carved from dark, polished wood, was inlaid with swirling silver patterns and a single, ominous obsidian eye. Ancient legends whispered that the mask was a crucible, a test designed by an arcane civilization that believed the soul swap was a divine trial, a way for warring spirits to truly understand each other. Only by seeing the world through the other's eyes, and then acting for a cause greater than themselves, could the curse be lifted. Unbeknownst to them, The whispers of ancient memory were already stirring within its obsidian depths. Jake reached the pedestal first, his hand closing around the cool, smooth wood of the mask. "This isn't yours to take," Olivia cried, lunging forward, her hand clamping down over his, both gripping the mask simultaneously. A searing, blinding flash of pure white light erupted from the mask, engulfing them both. The sound was deafening, a high-pitched hum that vibrated through their very bones, followed by a sudden, jarring silence. Everything spun, twisted, and then, absolute darkness. The morning sun, usually a gentle alarm, now felt like a blaring siren. Jake groaned, trying to push himself up, but his limbs felt alien. Lighter, more delicate. He rubbed his eyes, the skin feeling unusually soft. His voice, when it came out, was a high-pitched, feminine shriek. "Aya!" Across the room, a similar, guttural roar echoed back. "What the hell?" Jake scrambled out of bed, his legs surprisingly long and slender, wobbling on unfamiliar high heels that lay discarded on the floor. He stumbled towards the full-length mirror, his heart hammering against his ribs. Reflected back at him was not his own rugged, somewhat scruffy face, but Olivia Ramirez's striking, determined features. Her dark eyes, usually so sharp, were wide with disbelief and terror, framed by a cascade of dark hair. In the mirror, Olivia's reflection, now Jake, was equally horrified, staring at her own face on Jake's muscular, tattooed body. Her hands instinctively went to her face, feeling the rough stubble, the broader jawline. The powerful, masculine frame felt utterly foreign, a cage. Their eyes met in the mirror, two souls trapped in the wrong bodies, sharing a moment of pure, unadulterated panic. They both screamed again, simultaneously, pointing accusingly at their own swapped reflections. The antique mask, now inert, sat on Olivia's nightstand, a silent, ominous witness to the chaos it had wrought. "You! What have you done?" Jake, in Olivia's body, shrieked, his voice cracking with a mixture of fear and outrage. Olivia, in Jake's body, could only stammer, I don't know. It was that damn mask. This isn't happening. This can't be happening." The absurdity of the situation hit them, even amidst the terror. They were staring at their own faces, but the voices, the reactions, were undeniably each other's. The world had turned upside down, and the day had barely begun. Their separate lives, meticulously built, were about to collide in the most chaotic, hilarious, and potentially deadly way imaginable. The initial shock slowly morphed into a horrified realization. This was real. The mask, now lying innocently on Olivia's, Jake's, bedside table, had done its unspeakable work. Jake, trapped in Olivia's perfectly tailored police uniform, found himself staring at a pair of high heels with the same dread he usually reserved for laser grids. Olivia, meanwhile, wrestled with the unfamiliar bulk of Jake's leather jacket, feeling like an imposter in a skin that was too broad, too muscled, too male. Okay, calm down, Olivia, in Jake's body, tried to assert, though her voice, filtered through Jake's rough baritone, sounded strangely alien. "We need to think. What do we do?" Jake, in Olivia's body, threw her hands up, the delicate wrists looking comical. "Think? I'm wearing a bra. And a skirt. My job involves not getting caught, not this. And you're a cop. You probably have, like, a morning roll call or something equally terrifying." Their arguments were punctuated by awkward glances at their own reflections. Every movement felt wrong. Jake found Olivia's long hair annoyingly distracting, constantly falling into her eyes, while Olivia felt Jake's powerful muscles were clumsy and unwieldy, like driving a truck after years of zipping around in a sports car. The mask, despite its apparent dormancy, seemed to hum faintly in the back of their minds, a low thrumming pulse that occasionally brought forth fleeting, disjointed images. Jake saw a flash of Lena's disapproving face. Olivia glimpsed Lily's frail smile. The mask wasn't just a curse, it was a conduit, slowly forcing them to confront each other's inner worlds. The first test of their swapped existence came swiftly. For Jake, it was the police precinct. He, as Olivia, fumbled with the keys to Olivia's sleek sedan, almost backing into a patrol car before screeching to a halt. The uniform, usually a symbol of authority, felt like a straitjacket. Olivia's meticulously organized purse was a foreign landscape, full of lipsticks and a badge that felt ridiculously heavy. Arriving at the precinct, Jake was plunged into chaos. The hustle and bustle, the constant chatter of radios, the smell of stale coffee and disinfectant, it was overwhelming. He tried to mimic Olivia's confident stride, but kept tripping over his own feet. Detective Miller, Olivia's grizzled, no-nonsense superior, clapped him, on the shoulder. "Ramirez, glad you're here. We got a lead on that shadow syndicate drug bust. You're heading point." Jake's heart sank. Lead Point? He could barely remember Olivia's name, let alone the intricacies of a major police investigation. He walked into the briefing room, a sea of uniformed officers, all looking at him, Olivia, expectantly. He cleared his throat, trying to sound authoritative. "All right, bros and lady brothers. Let's, catch some bad guys." A few officers exchanged confused glances. He almost called Miller chief, then corrected himself to sir, then nearly said dude. The internal struggle was agonizing. During a tense moment in the briefing, a phone rang. Miller barked, "Ramirez, answer that." Jake, flustered, grabbed the wrong phone, nearly sent it flying, and when he finally answered, he accidentally put it on speaker. The voice on the other end was Lena, Olivia's ex-girlfriend. "Olivia, darling, are you free for dinner tonight? We really need to talk about us. And perhaps your reckless behavior." The entire briefing room fell silent, eyes darting between Jake as Olivia and the speakerphone. Jake's face, Olivia's face, burned crimson. Meanwhile, Olivia was facing her own brand of hell. She woke up in Jake's dingy apartment, a place that smelled faintly of pizza and stale coffee. Jake's clothes were all variations of dark, loose-fitting attire, a stark contrast to her own polished wardrobe. The first real challenge came when Jake's crew, a motley bunch of small-time criminals named Spike and Knuckles, burst in. "Yo, boss. Got a new score. Easy pickings, cash-only joint." "You're driving the getaway," Spike announced, handing her a pair of black leather gloves. Olivia, in Jake's body, stared blankly. "Score? Getaway? What are you talking about? And where's the paperwork for this operation?" Spike and Knuckles exchanged bewildered looks. "Paperwork? Boss, are you feeling all right? Did you hit your head during that museum job?" During the heist, which turned out to be a pathetic attempt to crack open a cheap convenience store safe, Olivia's inexperience was painfully obvious. She fumbled with Jake's lock-picking tools, her fine motor skills as a cop useless for the delicate art of cracking a safe. "It's not opening. Maybe we should just ask them for the money," she suggested innocently. She even accidentally activated Jake's encrypted phone, which immediately dialed 911. A police siren wailed in the distance. Spike and Knuckles stared at her in utter disbelief. "Boss, did you just call the cops on us?" Back in Olivia's life, Jake found himself facing perhaps the ultimate social torture, a yoga class. Lena, Olivia's elegant and formidable ex-girlfriend, had insisted. She arrived at Olivia's apartment, looking immaculate in designer athleisure wear. "Come on, Liv. You've been so stressed. This will do you good. My old yoga instructor is holding a special class." Jake, as Olivia, groaned internally. He'd rather face a firing squad. He struggled through the poses, her usually agile body feeling stiff and uncooperative. When Lena tried to help him, into a particularly contorted pose, whispering sweet nothings about reconnecting, Jake accidentally let out a very un-Olivia-like burp. Lena's face, usually so composed, registered a flicker of something between shock and utter disgust. "Olivia, darling, are you quite all right? You seem different today." He almost blurted out, "I'm a dude." Meanwhile, Olivia, as Jake, was forced to embrace the thug life. Jake's crew insisted he had to look the part for an upcoming deal. This meant puffing on a disgustingly stale cigar, enduring the booming bass of gangsta rap in a beat-up muscle car, and trying to look menacing while riding Jake's monstrous Harley-Davidson. Olivia, a stickler for rules and order, nearly crashed the bike when a particularly aggressive song came on. She couldn't stand the smell of cigar smoke, and the rap music grated on her nerves. She longed for the quiet hum of her police cruiser and the scent of freshly brewed coffee. As the day wore on, a strange kind of understanding began to dawn. Jake, witnessing Olivia's daily grind, the constant pressure, the difficult decisions, started to see past the rigid uniform. He saw the loneliness that came with her dedication to justice, the heavy burden of responsibility. He saw flashes of her dedication, her unwavering moral compass, and the quiet grief she carried for her injured partner. And Olivia, observing Jake's world from the inside, started to chip away at her own prejudices. She saw the loyalty his crew had for him, despite their rough edges. She saw his careful planning, his unexpected bursts of kindness. She witnessed his deep, protective love for Lily, evident in the photos scattered around his apartment, and overheard conversations with Spike that hinted at the desperate lengths he'd gone to, not for greed, but for survival, to keep his sister alive. Jake wasn't just a criminal. He was a man driven by a profound, if misguided, sense of duty. He had principles, even if they were forged in the shadows. The mask's subtle whispers of memory, of emotion, began to intertwine in their minds, blurring the lines of their initial perceptions. They were slowly, painfully, seeing the world through each other's eyes. But this bizarre education was about to take a terrifying turn. The chaotic absurdity of their swapped lives had, in a strange way, begun to forge an unwilling truce between Jake, in Olivia's body, and Olivia, in Jake's body. The mask's subtle, insistent whispers of memory and feeling had grown stronger, weaving snippets of each other's pasts into their present thoughts. Jake found himself inexplicably touched by the memory of Olivia's former partner, Detective Harding, lying in a hospital bed, a victim of the very syndicate he now understood Olivia was relentlessly pursuing. Olivia, conversely, felt a pang of protectiveness whenever a thought of Lily, Jake's frail, smiling sister, flashed through her mind. The lines between their identities, once so stark, were starting to blur in ways neither of them could comprehend. It was during a particularly grueling interrogation session, where Jake, channeling Olivia's steely gaze, but stumbling over police jargon, almost accidentally confessed to his own crimes, that the first real plot twist arrived. Jake, as Olivia, was trying to make sense of a whiteboard covered in flowcharts and mugshots related to the Shadow Syndicate, an organization he now realized was far more insidious than a mere drug ring. They trafficked in everything from illicit pharmaceuticals to stolen antiquities, and their tendrils reached deep into the city's underbelly, even into the upper echelons of power. Olivia, through her years of dedicated investigation, had built a complex web of connections, and Jake was now forced to navigate it. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. Jake, still grappling with the intricacies of a smartphone he rarely used, almost dropped it. He answered, trying to mimic Olivia's crisp, professional tone. Ramirez. A distorted, menacing voice slithered through the receiver. Detective Ramirez. We have something of yours. Or, rather, something that belongs to your thieving friend, Jake. Jake's blood ran cold. He immediately knew. What are you talking about? He managed, his voice barely a whisper. A little bird told us you were getting too close. And your friend, well, let's just say we found his Achilles heel. A small, sickly bird named Lily. The voice chuckled, a chilling, guttural sound. If you want her back, you'll drop your investigation. Permanently. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. Jake stared at the phone, his face, Olivia's face, pale with shock. Lily. His Lily. He felt a primal rage surge through him, a feeling so intense it momentarily overshadowed the surreal discomfort of inhabiting a different body. No, not Lily, he mumbled, Olivia's sophisticated phone clutched in his hand like a weapon. He immediately called Olivia, in Jake's body, who was trying, with limited success, to teach Spike and Knuckles the importance of proper grammar during a stakeout. It's Lily, Jake as Olivia. Choked out, skipping all pleasantries. The syndicate, they have her. They know who you are, Olivia. They know I'm you. Olivia as Jake froze. The noise of the city, the hum of the engine, faded into a dull roar. Lily. The sick girl, Jake's entire motivation. It was a punch to the gut. The name, Shadow Syndicate, sent a fresh wave of cold fury through her. They weren't just a threat to her investigation, they were now a threat to Jake's innocent sister, a girl who had no part in this dangerous game. What? How? They couldn't have. I was so careful. Olivia's mind raced, connecting dots. She had suspected the syndicate had eyes and ears everywhere, possibly even within the precinct, but this was a direct hit, a personal attack. The mask, resting back in Olivia's apartment, seemed to pulse with a renewed, internal light, as if sensing the deepening stakes, the convergence of their individual struggles into a shared nightmare. The ancient whispers intensified in their minds, no longer just disjointed memories, but fragmented messages. Only when two hearts beat as one, for a purpose greater than self. They arranged a frantic, clandestine meeting in a deserted park, their swapped bodies feeling more like prisons than ever before. Jake, as Olivia, was pacing nervously, her, police uniform a cruel irony. Olivia, as Jake, sat on a bench, her large, muscled frame radiating a tense energy. They said they'd only release her if I dropped the investigation, Jake, as Olivia, relayed, his voice tight with barely suppressed panic. But that's impossible. I am the investigation right now. And you're me. You can't just walk away. Olivia, as Jake, pounded a fist against the bench. I know. And dropping the investigation isn't an option. This is the Shadow Syndicate, Jake. They don't just release people. They make examples. They hurt people. My partner, Harding, they nearly killed him. They'll do worse to Lily. Her voice was grim, laced with a familiar, burning rage. We have to get her back. We have to work together. The reality of their situation slammed into them with brutal force. Their individual goals, Jake's desperate need to provide for Lily, Olivia's unwavering pursuit of justice, had suddenly merged. They were trapped, forced into an alliance that transcended their personal animosity and their bizarre physical predicament. The mask's curse, it seemed, had a purpose beyond mere chaos. The mask, Jake as Olivia, suddenly said, remembering the strange legend. They said it can only be broken when we act for something higher than ourselves. This has to be it, right? Saving Lily. That's higher than me, higher than you. It's us. Olivia, as Jake, nodded slowly, her brow furrowed in concentration. It makes sense. We're in each other's lives, seeing the world through each other's eyes. This is the ultimate test. We have to save her. Together. Her eyes, usually so analytical, now held a fierce, desperate resolve. Okay, Jake. You're a thief, I'm a cop. We're both intelligent, resourceful. We have to combine our skills. Your knowledge of the criminal underworld, my access to police intelligence. We have to find them. A fragile truce, born of shared terror and a desperate hope, formed between the two unwilling partners. Jake, the cynical thief now embodying a cop, and Olivia, the righteous detective trapped in a criminal's body, knew they had only one path forward. Lily's life hung in the balance, and their only chance was to pool their disparate skills, their opposing worldviews, and confront the Shadow Syndicate head-on. The hunt was on, and this time, the stakes were personal for both of them. The forced alliance between Jake, in Olivia's body, and Olivia, in Jake's body, was a rocky, often hilarious, but undeniably effective endeavor. The weight of Lily's abduction hung heavy over them, silencing most of their usual squabbling. The whispers from the mask were now almost constant, an echo chamber of shared anxieties and unexpected insights, deepening their understanding of each other with every passing moment. Their first challenge was simply to communicate and strategize without arousing suspicion. They settled on coded messages, late-night phone calls, and clandestine meetings in obscure corners of the city, all while maintaining their bizarre charades. Jake, as Olivia, found himself using his criminal cunning to navigate the labyrinthine bureaucracy of the police force. He exploited Olivia's contacts, subtly extracting information from unsuspecting colleagues. He learned that Olivia had been meticulously building a case against the Shadow Syndicate for years, painstakingly piecing together a network of informants, safe houses, and financial transactions. His thief's mind, usually focused on breaking into systems, now excelled at manipulating them from within. He even surprised himself with his ability to charm and deflect, skills he never knew he possessed until he wore Olivia's face. He got a thrill from solving police puzzles, using his innate understanding of how criminals thought to predict the syndicate's next move. He even managed to avoid Lena's persistent attempts at reconciliation by claiming deep cover work, a line he borrowed from an old spy movie. One particularly tense moment involved a patrol with Officer Davis, a young, earnest cop who idolized Olivia. Jake, as Olivia, had to maintain a facade of professionalism while mentally dissecting every piece of evidence they encountered, connecting it to the syndicate's movements. He once almost called a suspect bro and had to quickly cough and correct himself to sir, earning a strange look from Davis. But beneath the blunders, Jake started to feel a flicker of something akin to purpose. He saw the direct impact of Olivia's work, the good she genuinely did, protecting the vulnerable. He saw the satisfaction in bringing criminals to justice, a stark contrast to the fleeting triumph of a successful heist. Olivia, meanwhile, was forced to infiltrate Jake's underworld contacts. She donned Jake's signature leather jacket and projected an aura of street-hardened defiance, though internally she cringed at the pretense. She used Jake's network of small-time informants, bartering information for favors, something that went against every fiber of her being as a cop. Spike and Knuckles, initially suspicious of Jake's weird behavior, eventually warmed to him, finding his unexpected insights into police tactics incredibly useful. Olivia, with her analytical mind, quickly grasped the syndicate's hierarchy, their logistics, and their preferred methods of operation. She realized Jake, despite his criminal leanings, had built a surprisingly strong, albeit unconventional, network of loyalty. A particularly jarring experience for Olivia was a meeting with a notoriously shady fence, a portly man named Silas the Slipper, who usually dealt with Jake. Olivia, as Jake, had to bluff her way through a conversation about hot merchandise and cold cash, her internal monologue screaming about evidence and probable cause. Silas, however, seemed impressed by Jake's, her, sudden seriousness and intense focus, mistaking it for hardened ruthlessness. She even had to take a drag from a cigar Silas offered, almost gagging at the taste, but maintaining the tough guy facade. Their disparate skills began to synergize in unexpected ways. Jake's street smarts and his understanding of security systems, combined with Olivia's tactical training and investigative rigor, made them a formidable duo. Jake, using Olivia's badge, managed to access confidential police databases, while Olivia, using Jake's knack for social engineering, extracted crucial intel from syndicate low-level enforcers. They discovered the syndicate's main hideout was an abandoned warehouse district on the city's industrial waterfront, a place Olivia had suspected but never had enough proof to raid. During one of their secret meetings, deep within the catacombs of the city's old subway tunnels, the weight of their swapped lives bore down on them. "It's not easy, is it?" Jake, as Olivia, admitted, leaning against a grimy pillar. "Being a cop. Every decision, every move, it matters." "You carry a lot, Olivia." He saw the exhaustion etched on Olivia's face, a weariness he'd never noticed before, overshadowed by her stoic professionalism. He felt the echo of her grief for Harding, the constant pressure to live up to her own high standards. Olivia, as Jake, looked at him, her tough exterior momentarily cracking. "And you, Jake? Your world, it's not just black and white. There's a strange kind of loyalty, a desperation I never saw. And Lily, everything you do is for her." She saw the sacrifices he'd made, the moral compromises forced upon him by circumstance, not malice. She felt the depth of his love for his sister, a pure, unconditional bond that transcended the murky world he inhabited. The mask's influence was no longer just about memories, it was about empathy, about shared burdens. A crucial piece of information emerged from their combined efforts, a date and time for a major shadow syndicate operation, likely involving the transfer of Lily to a more secure location within the warehouse district. This was their window. This was their chance. However, a chilling realization began to dawn on Olivia. She noticed subtle shifts in police activity, a growing suspicion among certain officers regarding her, Jake's sudden, erratic behavior, particularly his unauthorized access to classified files. It wasn't just confusion, it felt targeted. One evening, as Olivia, was sifting through files in her office, he overheard two detectives whispering outside. "Ramirez has been acting strange," one said. "Too many risks. Too many unauthorized moves." The other replied, "Chief Miller is getting nervous. There's talk she might be compromised, working for the syndicate herself." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. They weren't just questioning Olivia's judgment, they suspected her of betrayal. This was more than a misunderstanding. It was a setup. The Shadow Syndicate, with its deep roots, was not only holding Lily hostage, but was also orchestrating a smear campaign, systematically turning Olivia's own department against her. The plan was not just to capture the syndicate, but to clear Olivia's name, a name that was now inextricably linked to Jake's own. The stakes had just multiplied, adding a layer of betrayal and political intrigue to their desperate rescue mission. They weren't just fighting for Lily, they were fighting for Olivia's career, her reputation, and her very freedom. The realization sent a fresh wave of urgency through both of them. Time was running out and the walls were closing in. The weight of the impending raid and the crushing realization of Olivia's precarious position, accused of betrayal by her own department, galvanized them. The whispers from the mask were now a cacophony of shared anxieties, urging them forward, reminding them of the stakes. Lily's face, etched with fear, and Harding's pale, unresponsive form in a hospital bed, flashed through their minds, fueling their determination. This wasn't just a rescue, it was a desperate gamble for justice, redemption, and a return to their own lives. They convened for a final, intense planning session in a forgotten boiler room beneath the city's old theater district. The air was thick with dust and a shared sense of foreboding. Jake, in Olivia's body, unfurled a blueprint of the Shadow Syndicate's warehouse lair, Olivia's methodical markings intermingled with Jake's hurried scrawls. Olivia, in Jake's body, stood over it, her powerful frame tense with strategic thought. "Okay, Olivia," as Jake began, her voice low and grave. "This is the layout. Multiple entry points, but heavy surveillance on all ground access. We need a diversion, something loud enough to draw their main force." Jake, as Olivia, pointed a slender finger at a section of the roof. "There's an old service tunnel here. Barely used, probably not even on their blueprints. My kind of entry. I can bypass their perimeter sensors from the inside, trigger a fire alarm in the West Wing. That'll create your opening." His thief's mind was already at work, mapping out the infiltration. "Good, Olivia," as Jake affirmed. "While they're dealing with the fire, I'll lead a small team, Spike and Knuckles, through the main loading dock. My priority is Lily. Get her out, no matter what. Your priority, once inside, is to disable their internal comms and security systems, clear a path for extraction. And Jake," she added, Jake's eyes, meeting Olivia's, "we also need proof. Proof that Officer Daniels is working with the syndicate, proof they set me up. Without it, my career is toast, even if we get Lily back." Officer Daniels. The name stung. Daniels had been a rising star, a seemingly trustworthy colleague Olivia had worked closely with. But in Jake's mind, snippets of memories, the mask's quiet influence, had made her realize the subtle, unsettling cues she had previously dismissed. Daniels was always just a step ahead of the syndicate, almost too good at predicting their moves, always redirecting her from crucial leads. Now, the mask was forcing Olivia to see Daniels through Jake's lens of cynical distrust, revealing the cracks in her own judgment. Daniels, Jake as Olivia, muttered, remembering Olivia's earlier files. He's been too close to this case. Too eager to help. My gut, your gut, says he's their inside man. Jake knew how insiders worked. They were the most dangerous kind of enemy. The plan was audacious, relying heavily on their unique, swapped skill sets. Jake would exploit Olivia's access to police intel to predict Daniel's countermoves, while Olivia would leverage Jake's underworld connections to secure the muscle and firepower they needed. Spike and Knuckles, though initially hesitant about going up against the big boys, were fiercely loyal to Jake. The thought of Lily, a child, being caught in the crossfire, hardened their resolve. One more thing, Olivia, as Jake said, her gaze intense. The mask. We're still trapped. The legend said act for something higher than yourself. This is it. Saving Lily, clearing my name, bringing down the syndicate. We do this, we go back. I feel it. Jake, as Olivia, nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. The idea of returning to his own body, to the familiar comfort of his own skin, was a powerful motivator. He yearned to hold Lily again, to protect her without the constant threat of capture. The night of the raid arrived, cloaked in a heavy, pre-dawn fog. Jake, disguised in Olivia's tactical gear, moved like a phantom across the rooftops of the abandoned warehouse district. He scaled walls, rappelled down service shafts, his nimble fingers, Olivia's fingers, now his, expertly manipulating wires and bypassing security systems. He bypassed the complex digital locks, a skill honed by years of illicit entry, but now applied to a higher purpose. He felt the cold fear of discovery, but also the exhilarating rush of truly making a difference, not just for himself, but for a greater good. The internal comms network of the syndicate crackled with their initial alarm as Jake triggered a meticulously timed fire alarm in the West Wing. Below, Olivia, in Jake's body, looking every inch the intimidating gang leader, led Spike and Knuckles through the main loading dock. The diversion Jake had created was working, drawing syndicate enforcers away from their position. Olivia moved with a calculated ferocity, using Jake's powerful physique to her advantage. She had painstakingly memorized the layout of the warehouse, anticipating every turn, every potential ambush. Her cop's instinct for strategy and her unwavering moral compass guided her. Move. Keep your eyes peeled for a girl, about this height, dark hair, she barked, channeling Jake's authoritative swagger. As they infiltrated deeper, the atmosphere grew tense. Gunfire erupted in the distance, a stark reminder of the danger. Olivia's heart hammered, but her mind remained clear, focused on Lily. They encountered pockets of resistance, brutes armed with automatic weapons. Olivia, trained in hand-to-hand combat, found Jake's larger body surprisingly adept, each punch and kick carrying significant force. She moved with brutal efficiency, her police training kicking in, blending with Jake's raw power. Meanwhile, Jake, as Olivia, had reached the syndicate's central control room. His mission, to find the proof against Daniels and disable all communications. He worked quickly, his fingers flying across keyboards, hacking into their encrypted network. He found it, a secure folder labeled OR Compromise filled with doctored evidence, manipulated surveillance footage, and staged communications designed to frame Olivia. He also discovered damning financial records, linking Daniels directly to the Shadow Syndicate's payroll. The betrayal was concrete, undeniable. Suddenly, a voice boomed over a previously disabled intercom. Ramirez. Drop your weapons. You're surrounded. Jake, as Olivia, looked up, startled. She had been found. He saw a squad of uniformed officers rushing into the control room, weapons raised. Leading them was Chief Miller, his face grim. And right behind him, with a smug, victorious smirk, was Officer Daniels. Looks like the dirty cop has finally been cornered, Daniels sneered, his eyes locking onto Jake, as Olivia. Good work, Chief. She was trying to destroy evidence. Jake, as Olivia, knew they were utterly trapped. The police, led by the very man who was the syndicate's inside agent, had outmaneuvered them. Her heart sank. The full extent of Daniel's treachery and the syndicate's reach was now terrifyingly clear. Olivia's name wasn't just on the line. Her life and Jake's life were now in immediate danger. The mask pulsed violently, almost screaming in their minds, pushing them towards an impossible choice. The stakes had reached a terrifying crescendo. The control room became a pressure cooker of tension and flashing lights. Jake, in Olivia's body, found himself staring down the barrels of several police-issued firearms, each held by officers who believed they were apprehending a traitor. Chief Miller's face was a mask of disappointment and anger, while Daniel's glowed with a sickening self-satisfaction. "Don't move, Ramirez," Miller commanded, his voice echoing in the tense silence. "You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and aiding a known criminal organization." Jake, as Olivia, felt a wave of despair. The proof against Daniels was on a USB drive in her pocket, but there was no way to present it now without being shot. She had been caught in a classic pincer movement, betrayed by the very system Olivia had dedicated her life to. The irony was a bitter taste in her mouth. Just then, a frantic voice crackled over a police radio, overriding all channels. "Chief, multiple hostiles engaging at the south end. They've got a hostage." Miller's head snapped towards the radio. "A hostage? Who?" Before the dispatcher could answer, another voice, deeper and more desperate, cut through the static. It was Olivia, as Jake. "It's Lily. They've got Lily. We're pinned down in Section C, near the old loading bay." Jake, as Olivia, felt a surge of adrenaline, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm. Lily. They had found her. But they were trapped. Miller, his face a mixture of confusion and renewed determination, barked orders. "Daniels, take a team, secure Ramirez. The rest of you with me. South End now. Protect the civilian." Daniels, ever the opportunist, gave a subtle nod to two officers, signaling them to keep their focus on Jake, as Olivia. He then followed Miller, a smirk playing on his lips. His plan was unfolding perfectly. Frame Olivia, retrieve the hostage, and eliminate any loose ends, including Jake's sister. He didn't know Jake was currently Olivia, but he suspected Jake was close, and Lily was the perfect bait. Jake, as Olivia, momentarily abandoned by the main police force, saw his chance. She faked a sudden coughing fit, stumbling, and managed to discreetly slip the USB drive containing the evidence against Daniels into a loose floor panel before the two remaining officers could fully react. I'm just a little dizzy," she gasped, hoping the evidence would be found later. Meanwhile, in the labyrinthine corridors of Section C, Olivia, in Jake's body, was fighting a desperate rearguard action. She had found Lily, small and terrified, huddled in a cage designed for animals, guarded by two burly syndicate enforcers. Spike and Knuckles had engaged the other syndicate thugs, creating a chaotic diversion, but they were quickly overwhelmed. Olivia, unleashing Jake's full physical prowess, dispatched the two guards, her moves precise and brutal, driven by a primal need to protect. "Lily, it's okay, you're safe now." Olivia, as Jake, whispered, her voice, Jake's voice, surprisingly gentle. She quickly worked on the lock, Jake's innate talent for lockpicking making the unfamiliar mechanism yield. But just as Lily was free, a new wave of syndicate enforcers, reinforced by Miller's arrival, swarmed the section. Among them, Daniels, his eyes now glinting with a cold, predatory light. Well, if it isn't our beloved detective, playing the hero with her criminal friends," Daniels sneered, his gun now aimed directly at Olivia, as Jake. "And look, the little bird, too. Convenient." Olivia, as Jake, shielded Lily with his body. "Daniels, you're working with them. You framed me." He roared his voice filled with righteous fury. Daniels merely laughed. "Who would believe a dirty cop, detective? Especially one who's currently in bed with a notorious thief." Chief Miller, witnessing the scene unfold, was torn. The evidence against Olivia, the fake evidence planted by Daniels, seemed overwhelming, yet the sight of Daniel's smug demeanor and Olivia's, Jake's, fierce protectiveness of a child stirred a flicker of doubt. The situation was dire. Lily was caught between two opposing forces, the Shadow Syndicate, led by their ruthless enforcers, and the police, led by a corrupt officer. Olivia, as Jake, was holding a pistol, but her priority was Lily's safety. She was outnumbered, outgunned, and her own department was arrayed against her. It was in that moment of despair that Jake, as Olivia, burst into the clearing. She had managed to slip away from Daniel's men, using Olivia's smaller frame to navigate the chaotic shootout. Her eyes immediately found Lily, then Olivia, as Jake, shielding her. Lily! Jake, as Olivia, cried out, a sob catching in her throat. The sight of Jake, as Olivia, arriving changed everything. Daniel's plan, previously so airtight, began to unravel. He hadn't accounted for the switch. He had simply wanted to frame Olivia and secure Lily. Ramirez, what are you doing here? Miller demanded, confused by Olivia's presence while Olivia, Jake, was also there, seemingly leading the rescue. Daniels, realizing the true nature of the switch, roared, They swapped bodies. Don't let them escape. He knew the mask had been retrieved from the museum. He knew the legends. The true head of the Shadow Syndicate, a shadowy figure they later learn is Mr. Thorne, had arrived. He had been observing from a hidden vantage point, and now, seeing Daniel's plan falling apart, he stepped out. Thorne was not just a crime boss, he was a collector of ancient artifacts, and the mask was his ultimate prize. He revealed his true face, a cold, calculating man who had manipulated both sides. The mask's power is real, detective. And now I shall reclaim it. He ordered his men to converge. The crossfire intensified, a deadly ballet of bullets and desperate movements. Lily was screaming, terrified. They were cornered. There was only one escape route, a narrow, crumbling access tunnel. But it was under heavy fire from both the syndicate and the confused police. We have to get Lily out. Olivia, as Jake, yelled over the din, her voice laced with desperation. There's only one way, Jake, as Olivia, shouted back, her eyes scanning the chaos, her mind working furiously. She saw an old, unstable beam supporting a section of the ceiling directly above the syndicate enforcers. If it could be brought down, it would create a diversion, a brief window of opportunity for Lily and Olivia to escape. But it meant sacrificing himself. Jake, the thief who always planned his own escape, suddenly saw a path to true redemption, a chance to fulfill the mask's prophecy. He had always stolen for Lily, for his own survival. Now, for the first time, he was ready to give everything for something far greater, Lily's safety and Olivia's future. Olivia, Jake, as Olivia, called out, her voice clear and resolute amidst the gunfire. Get Lily out. I'll create an opening. She didn't wait for an answer. She began scrambling towards the crumbling support beam, drawing fire, her movements agile and daring. Jake, no. Don't be an idiot. Olivia, as Jake, screamed, a wave of profound fear washing over her. She knew what he was planning. She had watched him make similar reckless decisions in his own life, but never with such a clear, selfless intent. As Jake, in Olivia's body, reached the beam, she looked back, meeting Olivia's, Jake's, gaze. There was a faint smile on her face, a strange mix of resignation and peace. She saw the raw humanity, the courage, the love that had always been hidden beneath Olivia's rigid exterior, and he recognized it as something truly noble. He understood her now completely. Just as she braced to bring down the beam, a blinding flash erupted. Not from the crossfire, but from the pocket of Daniels, who, in the confusion, had unknowingly retrieved the very mask from Olivia's bag earlier, thinking it was a valuable antique he could fence. The light engulfed Jake and Olivia, a brilliant, pure white energy. It pulsed, vibrated, and then, with a soft whoosh, faded away. The ensuing silence was deafening, broken only by the startled gasps of the remaining combatants. When the light cleared, Jake was standing in his own body, ragged and scarred, but whole. And Olivia, in her own police uniform, stood beside him, clutching Lily. They were back. The mask, now inert, lay discarded at Daniel's feet, its obsidian eye dulled. They had acted for something higher than themselves. And the curse was broken. But the fight was far from over. The sudden switch back to their own bodies left both Jake and Olivia momentarily disoriented, yet a surge of relief washed over them. The familiar weight of their own limbs, the natural resonance of their own voices, it was like coming home after a long, strange journey. Lily, still trembling, clung to Olivia's uniform, her small face buried in the fabric. The battle, however, was far from over. The Shadow Syndicate enforcers, momentarily stunned by the flash, quickly recovered. Chief Miller, now thoroughly bewildered by the apparent rematerialization of his detective and the thief, barked conflicting orders. Daniels, however, reacted with cold, calculated rage, seeing his meticulously crafted plans crumbling before his eyes. "They're trying to escape. Don't let them take the girl." Daniels screamed, no longer bothering with the pretense of law and order. He raised his weapon, aiming directly at Lily. But before Daniels could fire, Jake, now in his own body, moved with a speed born of desperation. He tackled Daniels, sending both of them sprawling. The impact caused Daniels to drop his weapon. A furious fistfight erupted, Jake's street-fighting instincts clashing with Daniels' more refined, but equally brutal, police training. Jake, fueled by fury over Lily's abduction and Daniel's betrayal, fought with a savage intensity he rarely displayed, landing solid blows that sent Daniels reeling. Olivia, meanwhile, her police instincts fully re-engaged, quickly assessed the situation. With Lily secured behind her, she drew her service weapon, her movements precise and authoritative. "Chief Miller, Daniels is the mole. He set me up. I have proof," she yelled, pointing towards the discarded USB drive that Jake, as Olivia, had hidden earlier. Miller, still trying to process the impossible body swap, hesitated. But the raw conviction in Olivia's voice, the genuine terror in Lily's eyes, and the desperate fight between Jake and Daniels finally tipped the scales. He saw Daniels' frantic, cornered movements, the true malice in his eyes. "Secure Daniels," Miller roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. "The rest of you, focus fire on the syndicate. Protect the civilians." The tide of the battle swiftly turned. With Miller's clear orders, the remaining loyal officers redirected their efforts, engaging the syndicate enforcers. Olivia, her mind clear and sharp, provided covering fire, directing officers, and ensuring Lily's safety. She moved with a purpose, a true leader in her element. Spike and Knuckles, seeing Jake back in his own body and the police now fighting with them against the syndicate, rallied, adding their own rough-and-tumble fighting styles to the fray. Jake, having subdued Daniels, dragged him roughly towards Miller. "Check his comms, Chief. He's got a direct line to Thorne." Miller, acting on instinct, searched Daniels, finding a concealed earpiece. A quick command from his own radio unit, and the police comms intercepted a frantic call from Thorne, the syndicate boss, to Daniels, ordering him to eliminate all witnesses. The evidence was undeniable. Daniels was arrested on the spot, his smug smirk replaced by a look of utter defeat. With Daniels exposed and the police forces fully committed, the Shadow Syndicate's remaining resistance crumbled. Their leader, Thorne, managed to escape into the pre-dawn fog, but his operation was severely crippled, his network exposed, and his valuable employees rounded up. The warehouse, once a bastion of illicit activity, was now a scene of triumphant police activity. In the aftermath, amidst the flashing lights of patrol cars and the shouts of forensics teams, Lily finally ran into Jake's arms. He held her tight, burying his face in her hair, tears of relief streaming down his face. "Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," he whispered, a lifetime of guilt and fear pouring out. Olivia watched them, a pang of warmth in her chest. Seeing Jake, truly Jake, holding his sister, knowing the lengths he went to for her, solidified everything she had learned. He was a criminal, yes, but one driven by an incredible, selfless love. Later, at the precinct, The atmosphere was tense. Chief Miller, having reviewed the evidence from Jake's, Olivia's USB drive and Daniel's captured communications, was livid but also deeply apologetic to Olivia. Ramirez, I owe you an apology. A profound one. Daniels played us all. Your record is clear. Your name is cleared. Olivia nodded, but her face was grim. Thank you, Chief. But my methods were unconventional. And I did technically involve a known criminal in a police operation. Miller sighed. Yes, well, that's where it gets complicated. The department's internal affairs will want to have a very long talk with you. Your actions, while leading to a massive bust, were highly unorthodox. I'm afraid I'll have to recommend a temporary suspension, pending a full review. Olivia accepted the news with a small, weary smile. She had expected it. Her career might be on hold, but her conscience was clear. She had saved Lily, exposed a corrupt officer, and crippled a major criminal organization. The satisfaction was immeasurable. As for Jake, his fate was also on the line. He was still a thief, albeit one who had helped bring down a major criminal outfit. Olivia, however, stepped in. She approached the district attorney's office, presenting a nuanced defense of Jake's actions. She detailed his motivations, his desperate efforts to save his sister, and his crucial role in exposing Daniels and dismantling the syndicate. She painted a picture of a man forced into a life of crime by circumstances, but who ultimately chose the path of selflessness. Thanks to Olivia's impassioned plea and the overwhelming evidence of his contribution to the bust, Jake received a surprisingly lenient sentence: community service. No prison time. He would have a clean slate, a chance to truly start over and finally, legally, provide for Lily. As Jake walked out of the courthouse, Lily clinging to his hand, he saw Olivia waiting. She looked tired, but triumphant. They shared a silent nod of understanding, two vastly different individuals irrevocably linked by a shared, bizarre experience. The mask, now recovered from Daniel's possession, was carefully secured as evidence, its power still a mystery to the world, but a profound, life-altering truth to them. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city. A new chapter had begun for both of them, one they never could have imagined. And the ancient mask, tucked away in an evidence locker, seemed to shimmer faintly, its purpose fulfilled, its lessons learned. Months later, the city had begun to heal. The Shadow Syndicate was dismantled, its leaders incarcerated, its influence severed. Officer Daniels was serving a lengthy sentence, his career and reputation in tatters. Chief Miller had overseen a sweeping internal review, cleaning out the remaining corrupt elements within the department. Olivia's temporary suspension had ended, and though her unorthodox methods were still whispered about, her reputation for fearless integrity shone brighter than ever. She was back on the force, more determined, more empathetic, and perhaps a little less rigid than before. Jake, true to his word, diligently performed his community service, working in public parks, scrubbing graffiti, and planting trees. It was a far cry from the high-stakes world of museum heists, but for the first time in his life, he felt a genuine sense of peace. Lily was recovering well, her medical bills now covered by a state program Olivia had helped him navigate. She still had a mischievous sparkle in her eyes, often teasing Jake about his cop face from their swapped days. One crisp autumn afternoon, Jake was raking leaves in a quiet corner of Central Park, a rhythmic, almost meditative task. He wore worn jeans and a faded t-shirt, his hair a little longer, his shoulders broader from the manual labor. He looked content, a rarity for the once-hunted thief. A familiar figure approached, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. Olivia, in her off-duty clothes, a sleek, dark trench coat and ankle boots, looked effortlessly elegant, yet there was a softness to her eyes that hadn't been there before. She handed him a cup, their fingers brushing. A subtle spark, a ghost of the connection forged in the crucible of the body swap, passed between them. "Fancy meeting you here, Mr. Clean," Olivia quipped, a wry smile playing on her lips. Jake took a sip of the warm coffee, a perfect blend he knew she'd remembered he liked. "And you, detective? Slumming it with the common folk?" He squinted at her, the setting sun catching the glint in his eyes. "You know," he said, his voice dropping to a teasing murmur, "I think I stole your heart back there. Planning on arresting me for it?" Olivia laughed, a genuine, melodic sound that brightened the park. "You, Jake, have already been arrested," she countered, stepping closer, her gaze holding his. "Life sentence. With no parole." Her smile softened, her eyes conveying a depth of understanding that only they could share. "You earned it, you know. Your freedom. Your chance." Jake looked down at his calloused hands, then back up at her, a profound gratitude in his eyes. "Thanks to you." He paused, then added, "You weren't so bad in my body, you know. A little too much paperwork for a heist, but you had a certain, ruthless charm." Olivia playfully nudged him. "And you in mine? You almost got me fired, nearly shot the chief, and had a very embarrassing yoga incident with Lena. But you also brought down a criminal empire. So, I guess we're even." She looked out at the golden hues of the setting sun, painting the park in fiery shades. "The mask," she mused. "It worked, didn't it? Showed us what it truly meant to walk in someone else's shoes." Jake nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Yeah, changed things. For both of us." He had found a new respect for law, for order, for the quiet heroism of everyday police work. And Olivia had seen the shades of gray, the desperation, the unexpected decency that could exist even in the shadows. Their worlds, once diametrically opposed, had intertwined, leaving an indelible mark on their souls. As the last rays of sunlight kissed the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and purples, a sense of peace settled between them. The extraordinary journey had forged an unexpected bond, a unique understanding that transcended their pasts. The screen slowly faded to black, but not before a final, lingering shot, the trunk of Olivia's sleek sedan, parked innocently by the curb. Inside, nestled amongst a spare tire and emergency kit, was a small, velvet-lined box. And within that box, the mask of Ethelgard, its obsidian eye gleaming faintly, almost imperceptibly, in the twilight. A silent guardian, a catalyst for change, ready to wait for its next unwitting participants, its ancient purpose forever woven into the fabric of human understanding. The end.